Follow 912 on Amazon Music or with Wondery Plus to binge all 7 episodes right now. Episode 5. A Failure of Imagination. The Hollywood trade paper Variety has been around as long as Hollywood itself. Dentists' offices have their People magazines, talent agencies have their daily Variety. The fun of daily Variety used to be in translating it. Over the years, they had developed their own special language in the headlines. Directors are called helmers. Writers are called scribes. If you've been ankled, you've either quit or gotten fired, but nobody's quite sure which. A topper is a studio head. Previews are called sneaks. It all added up to a secret code that gives you headlines like Back Ankle's Prexy Post at Pearson. Lately, they've toned the slang down a notch, but I don't know why. It's kind of fun. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of like Hollywood. Now, if you picked up Variety on October 7th of 2001, barely a month after 9/11, you would have seen a headline that was perplexing for a different reason. A headline I very clearly remember reading myself with a, The headline was this: Feds seek H. Wood's help. Helmers, scribes probe terrorism at U.S. Army's request. And here was the lead. In a reversal of roles, government intelligence specialists have been secretly soliciting terrorist scenarios from top Hollywood filmmakers and writers. It's not unusual, of course, for policymakers to seek input from the outside. NGOs and think tanks, that's what they do. Outside experts giving the insiders advice and perspective. But if this Variety article was correct, these experts are way outside. The government was getting advice about terrorism from the scribes of shows like MacGyver, from the writer of Die Hard.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
I mean, aren't you curious? So were we. But that Variety article was just about it. Somehow in a town where gossip is currency, over the past 2 decades, pretty much zero additional information leaked out about what came out of those meetings and how long this strange relationship lasted. And our own attempts at finding out more were a series of dead ends, not interesteds, and Freedom of Information Act requests denied. But then, breakthrough. There was one article about this, one blurb in Variety, and then almost no reporting on this for 20 years. How did you keep it a secret?
I mean, I don't think I would have talked to you 15 years ago. We signed confidentiality agreements, but I mean, come on, guys, it's 20 years later.
From Pineapple Street Studios, Amazon Music, and Wondery, this is 912.
I came out to Hollywood in the mid-'80s, having directed a film called Stripper that Hollywood loved.
A little backstory on Jerome Gary, Hollywood screenwriter, Hollywood producer, and I'm starting to suspect Hollywood incarnate. In the late 70s, Jerome produced the bodybuilding doc Pumping Iron. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, if only to educate yourself on the bulging flesh and superhuman angles of a young Arnold Schwarzenegger. After Pumping Iron and Stripper, Jerome switched to writing screenplays.
And I went from being dead broke to being like, whoa, I mean, really, I sold 5 in a row for over $1 million. I mean, it was a big deal.
And by the 90s, he became a part of a strange club in Hollywood, the successful screenwriter who makes it big without ever seeing their work produced on screen. And some of them I really would have liked to have seen on screen.
I wrote a thing called Tiger, which was about a tiger loose in L.A.
Cool.
Got out of a zoo and ate everybody I hated, which were a lot of people at that point, and then gets rescued.
Sounds like a metaphor.
That was, that was bought by Universal.
Also, you should know that Jerome is a pretty connected guy. Fancy schools, fancy friends. George W. Bush was his fraternity brother at Yale. Jerome's thoughts on our 43rd president?
I think he was really good at running a fraternity house.
Okay, so in 2001, Jerome is just chugging along, being all Hollywood. And then, on the morning of September 11th...
I walk into Starbucks and they're on the TV. This plane's flying into a building.
It's like something out of a movie, right? Well, apparently, Jerome was not the only one who thought this. Because a couple weeks later,
we get a call from the DOD.
The Department of Defense. Now, it is important to remember here that when September 11th happened, it was assumed that it was just the beginning. Not a one-off attack, but a new kind of warfare. Nobody knew how many wannabes were taking flying lessons to hijack their own planes, or planning something even more outside the box. The Pentagon reached out to a team at USC called the Institute for Creative Technologies and said, hey, can you round up a group of Hollywood types, writers, directors, creatives, to help us figure out what might be coming next? Use your talent at cooking up crazy on-screen scenarios to guess the future. A writer's room, basically, to brainstorm how the next season of post-9/11 America could unfold. Just how bad could it get?
Essentially, who are these people? Why did they do this? What do they want? What are they going to do next? And what can we do to stop it?
They do it in two groups. Jerome is there for both.
And so we had who's who. We had absolutely from Oliver Stone, Spike Jonze, everybody.
The Rocketeer writer, Paul DeMeo, is there. The Fast and Furious writer, David Ayer, is there.
I mean, Dick Wolf was there.
Dick Wolf from the Law and Order franchise. They also had some wild cards. Director of Valley Girl, Martha Coolidge, is there. And Randall Kleiser, who directed Grease. So, who was really good?
Oh, unquestionably, the smartest guy in the whole thing was David Milch.
David Milch created NYPD Blue, and later Deadwood on HBO.
He'd say things like, what's the homeopathic cure to terrorism? It's like he's really, 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 really smart.
Who was bad?
David Fincher wasn't particularly good.
Fincher had recently directed Fight Club with Brad Pitt.
Spike Jonze wasn't particularly good.
Spike Jonze directed Being John Malkovich and was producing Jackass on MTV at the time.
I mean, Spike Jonze has come up with some off-the-wall shit. I'm surprised that...
Directors, as a rule, are used to having a room full of silent people listening to their voice. And this was not... this was not that.
This was everyone just throwing their ideas out. What will the next big nightmare be? Fertilizer bombs, anthrax, basically pitching disaster movies to each other, and then fleshing out the ones that have legs. So, like shipping containers became an area of focus. Thousands enter the country every day. It's impossible to inspect them all.
You could get a nuclear bomb on a ship without too much difficulty.
Or instead of airplanes, they focus on airports.
Get a lot of weaponry and... a half dozen guys could put, 24 planes out of commission and kill 1,000 people.
They do this for a few sessions. All the horrible things that could happen tomorrow or the next day or the day after that.
How scary is that list of scenarios?
It's scary until you realize how many scenarios there are, how vulnerable we are, and you just get sort of like anesthetized. You can't defend them against all these things.
It is hard to overstate how much fear ruled the day on 9/12. How clean the break had been between the sense of relative safety on U.S. soil before and then after, when we now knew just how vulnerable we really were.
We did not grasp the magnitude of a threat that had been gathering over a considerable period of time.
When the 9/11 Commission released their findings, they broke down 4 ways that America had failed in not preventing what had happened.
As we detail in our report, this was a failure of policy, management, capability.
But it's the last one that they gave the most weight to.
And above all, a failure of imagination.
A failure of imagination. We had failed to consider not just the worst-case scenarios, but the weirdest. We had been too quick to say, nah, that's not possible. But it was. Now everything was.
Our goal is to prevent future attacks. Every expert with whom we spoke told us an attack of even greater magnitude is now possible and even probable. We do not have the luxury of time.
And I think it's fair to say that it's imagination that drove us to the brink of insanity.
There are clear and present dangers of another attack.
Daily life turned into a not very well thought out piece of speculative fiction.
There is credible evidence that terrorists may be planning to blow up their bridges.
The scenarios for our grisly demise now infinite.
Try to get licenses to transport hazardous materials.
The Coast Guard says the nation's coastlines are vulnerable to scuba divers and swimmers.
In 2002, the terror alert system made the state of panic official.
The national terror threat level stands at high, raising the alert from yellow to orange.
Turning on the morning news was like dipping your hand into a bag of Skittles, terrified you'd pull out the yellow one, or an orange one, or the dreaded
red, severe risk of attack. Airports and subways could be shut down.
But even then, it rarely came with anything to actually act on or to do about it.
No specific targets, no specific dates of any potential attacks, but U.S. officials believe...
All of it predicated less on facts, but rather possible facts, future facts that might come to be.
Osama bin Laden appears to have released a new audio message this morning.
And all orchestrated by a madman. Who no one could see or hear unless he decided to let us, releasing video messages to the world on his timetable, not ours. This was reality not for weeks or months, but years.
Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos.
So when the Batman movie The Dark Knight came out in 2008, with Heath Ledger playing the Joker, terrorizing Gotham, where they couldn't predict what he would do next, where he would top one dastardly brilliant scheme after another.
Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's beer.
That wasn't fantasy. That was real. That was boiled down from a certain feeling, that uncertain fear that had gotten under our skin and made it crawl. Maybe it's not so crazy then. Maybe it's kind of brilliant. That when life starts to feel like a movie, find the people who make movies and ask them, what happens next? Okay, back to 2001, just a few weeks after 9/11. Jerome Gary and the Hollywoods finish brain dumping all their darkest thoughts, and those scenarios get written up into a white paper, which then gets sent off to Washington. Who does the white paper go to?
It went to the Department of Defense, and I know as a fact, because of my friends, that it went right to the top. Right to the top.
The tippy top?
The tippy top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it go to the head of your fraternity?
It did. It did indeed.
Good luck fact-checking that one. But it definitely went to someone important, because Hollywood's phone rings again. But this time it is not the Pentagon calling. This time, it's the CIA.
And we put together 15 people or so to go to CIA and talk to them.
They call the group. Fincher, out. Spike Jonze, out. The director of Grease, still in. In any case, it is not a real DC crowd. They fly to Washington.
Guys were wearing suits they hadn't worn in 20 years. You know, like shoes that didn't fit.
Here's how Jerome remembers what happened next.
And we are escorted into this room, which is easily 150 feet long. Easily. And it's like one table. It's unbelievably long. Over the next 15 or 20 minutes, 250 people come in. 250 people. There was standing room only. You couldn't believe it.
And then George Tenet walks in, the director of the CIA.
And he goes, Jerome Gary? And I go, and he said, your meeting.
Your meeting what?
Yeah, well, in other words, it's your meeting. Take over.
In other words, it's your meeting, Jerome Gary, screenwriter of Tiger, Tiger, and director of Stripper. Help us figure this out because we don't know the answer. Why did they do this? What are they going to do next? And what can we do to stop it?
And nobody left the room for 2.5 hours.
Tenet sat in this meeting for 2.5 hours?
2.5 hours. Didn't move.
Wow.
Did not move.
And they must have said something useful because the CIA asks them to do it again and again and again. How many sessions were you involved in the sort of smaller group?
I lost count. I mean, dozens and dozens. It went on for a couple of years.
Stephen E. D'Souza wrote Die Hard. It's a classic. The script he crafted is still taught in screenwriting workshops as a model for a gripping story structure and how to create compelling villains.
And when Alexander saw the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. benefits of a classical education.
D'Souza says over the years, their work with the CIA evolved beyond just brainstorming, beyond just imagining what the real-life bad guys might do next. He says the CIA would sometimes have the writers and directors actually play the bad guys.
We were given an exercise to do to test security at the kind of landmarks that might be a target. In other words, they said, okay, your target is the Washington Monument. Your mission is to blow it up, and you will put up an orange sticker on it to show you were there. Our people are watching the monuments to see if you could successfully infiltrate.
The mission, he says, was to bypass the government's security protocols and outsmart our intelligence service, all while normal, unknowing citizens are just walking around and doing their thing. What was your target?
The Air and Space Museum, and I successfully destroyed it. I got in there and I put my little orange sticker on, I think, the Atlas missile.
The CIA, of course, won't comment on the specifics of any of this. CIA is going to CIA. Same with the Department of Defense. But we were able to track down and speak to, on the record and off, multiple people who were involved in these programs. They quibble over some of the details, who led what meeting, which great idea was whose. Hollywood's gonna Hollywood. But it happened. This Hollywood brain trust became a secret part of how the CIA fought the war on terror. Before 9/11, for a lot of people, for me, service, patriotism were not at the top of my list of things.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Jerome Gary again.
Yeah, I spent a lot of energy not going to Vietnam,
Yeah. Did you feel like you were part of the war effort?
I felt that I was helping. CIA, like any sane human being, felt humiliated and underprepared. We didn't know what we should have known, and that we were humbled.
That we were humbled?
Yeah, humbled. And I think that is an emotion that shortly thereafter departed the Pentagon.
Summer is coming to an end and the leaves are about to fall. And while Mother Nature does her thing to prepare for the new season, you can do yours by seeing how much you can save on home and auto insurance. It is never a bad time to find ways to bundle your home and auto insurance and save on coverage with Policy Genius. Policy Genius makes it easy to compare home and auto insurance in one place. They can help you find home and auto coverage similar to what you have now, but at a lower price. They saved customers an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying for home and auto insurance before. They saved new customers an average of $350 per year on home insurance. Getting started is easy. First, head to PolicyGenius.com and answer a few quick questions about yourself and your property. Then Policy Genius takes it from there. They'll compare rates from America's top insurers, from Progressive to Allstate, to find your lowest quotes. Head to PolicyGenius.com to get started right now. Policy Genius. When it comes to insurance, it's nice to get it right. Everyone wants to feel safe and secure. And that goes for you, and it goes for your family. And that is where SimpliSafe's new wireless outdoor security camera comes in. It's wireless, so it can install anywhere, extending SimpliSafe's perimeter of defense from your windows and doors to the far corners of your property. We actually just got ours from SimpliSafe in the mail, and it's not some kooky, complicated thing like you might think. It all comes in one box, it's simple, it's high-tech, and they explain it all. SimpliSafe is the system that U.S. News & World Report named Best Home Security System of 2021, and they just got better. This brand new outdoor security camera is engineered with all the advanced tech to help keep you and your family safe. It's got ultra-wide, 140-degree field of view, so you can keep watch over your entire yard. To learn more about the new SimpliSafe wireless outdoor security camera, visit simplisafe.com/912. SimpliSafe is offering 20% off your entire new system and your first month of monitoring service free when you enroll in interactive monitoring. Again, that's simplisafe.com/NINETWELVE. Tell me about this gig. When was the first time you heard about this role?
Got the email audition from my manager, and she said, "This is a wild one. Let me know what you think."
And as soon as I saw Osama bin Laden, I was like, oh, for the love of God, you know.
A few years ago, actor Christopher Tramontana was offered the role of a lifetime. Actually, he was offered 2 roles of a lifetime.
Have you seen Future Man?
No.
I'm on that show, actually, but I play Jesus Christ.
Hold the fucking phone. You play Osama bin Laden and Jesus Christ?
In the same year.
Tell me.
I'll tell you what.
I don't know. There's got to be something.
I don't know. I'm your Semitic
that.
guy. If you need it, like if you need someone from the desert or that borders the Mediterranean, I'm your guy. I can do drama. I can do Shakespeare. I can do comedy.
But honestly, Jesus, there's been a million Jesuses. Now playing Bin Laden, that is something to sink your teeth into. Tramontana's turn as our national boogeyman was in the Hulu series Rami. It's Rami Youssef's show about navigating life as a Muslim in America. But for a character so iconic, there have been very few serious portrayals of Bin Laden in the last 20 years. There have been jokey Bin Ladens, there have been dancing Bin Ladens, there have been animated Bin Ladens, dead body Bin Ladens, but almost none where Bin Laden is just played straight. A character study, as a person with complexity and not just a monster. And watching that episode of Rami, you begin to understand why. I love the show Rami. I adore it. But seeing Bin Laden played as a real human being is unnerving. That scene freaks me out.
Freaked a lot of people out.
Rami, relax. Sit.
The scene is 12-year-old Rami's dream, but it's a hyper-realistic one. It's him and Osama bin Laden having a midnight snack at the Youssef family kitchen table.
I love strawberries.
It's the night after the attacks, and everyone is treating Rami different at school now because he's Muslim.
I wish I had a cell phone that had Snake on it. You know, I never have anything that anybody has.
Me too. I wish I had friends I could trust. America was my friend. Then they turned their back on me. You know what that's like, don't you? You're just like me.
I was playing the boogeyman, you know? I was this kid's fear about who he could be, who he might be, and what he didn't want to be. And my job was to provide the pressure that Rami has to come up against, to be Darth Vader. This is your destiny. This is what you are. Come over here. It's good for you. You'll be good here.
What about Angela's mom?
Who?
My friend. Angela. Her mom died.
Look. What about Fatima's mom? And Khalid's mom? And thousands of moms that have died in the Middle East? We must restore the balance, even if it means killing Angela's mom.
Does it make you feel weird to humanize Osama bin Laden?
I don't feel weird about that. He was a human being. He's a terrible person. Did some terrible things. And I do not understand his psychology. I know a little bit of it. I mean, he's an outcast in his family. You know, he had all these like people ahead of him who were rich and did well, and he was sort of like the black sheep of this really powerful family. And to me, that is very Shakespearean. Antithesis. Character is an antithesis. So,
character is an antithesis.
The character is in the antithesis. You know, where their opposites are. You know, Martin Luther King cheated on his wife constantly. You know, Gandhi had a terrible temper. It was hard, you know, and so and was not a nice person. You know, I love that to me, that's humanity.
Character is in antithesis. There's a reason playing Bin Laden straight feels so strange. A scholar named Ghassan Haj calls it the condemnation imperative, where something is so terrible, so despicable, the urge to condemn it is so strong that supersedes any attempt to explain it. That trying to understand it is an insult to the very horror of its mere existence. And if you think about it, that is how America has treated Osama bin Laden since 9/11. There can't be any why with bin Laden. There's only a what. And the what is monster, practically non-human. Which is why I was so surprised to hear how much time the government spent behind the scenes considering bin Laden's humanity so intently. Did you guys do any sort of imagining about bin Laden specifically?
Yo, God, yeah.
Here's Jerome Gary again on Hollywood's work with the CIA.
We would do these scenarios with bin Laden, and we'd have like guys, putting together a story about, one guy said, well, here's an MOW of bin Laden.
MOW, that's Movie of the Week. It's basically the 80s version of a Hallmark Channel movie. You put together theoretical movies of the week about bin Laden?
Oh, yeah. And we did also, they were very, very interested in screenwriting. And I ended up giving these 3-day workshops. I probably gave 15 of those.
Why would they be interested in screenwriting?
Predictive behavior. I taught a system of personalities called the Enneagram, which is an old Sufi system.
It's basically a way to classify personalities. Is a character an introvert or an extrovert? Sensitive or aggressive? What drives them? And how do these traits shape the way that they act?
And they love that. I taught it with film clips.
So, hypothetically.
A 3. George Bush is a 3. My wife is a 3. I am what I do. A 3 is, a real achiever. Now, a 3 stressed goes to 9, can't make a decision.
And they would use that system, Jerome says, to think about bin Laden. His human qualities would be the key to defeating him.
When you think of bin Laden as a 5 and Zawahiri as a 9, indecisive classically, what are they like in the same room? What are they like in a director's meeting? What are they like in this or that?
Wow.
Yeah. But I ultimately gave it for a huge number of people at Lang. I would say many hundreds of people in CIA have been exposed to this.
Behind the scenes, in Top Secret world, bin Laden was complicated. He had minor flaws, not just big evil ones. He had bad habits that could mess him up. And he behaved rationally. He had logic. He had goals. But in public, bin Laden equals the devil. Anything beyond that, heresy.
I was on a train going from London to Birmingham on the day after bin Laden was shot.
This is Sam Redway. Sam is a dramaturg and playwright.
And there was a kid across the aisle who was going through a newspaper. And I was also going through a newspaper, but we were going through it very differently.
Sam was reading about bin Laden the day after he was killed, with all the little human color and quirks that you get in an obit. Like, Osama bin Laden tried to eat vegetarian, and he had a bad back. That kind of stuff.
And literally at the same time as me going, oh, this is quite humanizing, I saw this kid open up his centerfold, which was a series of just pictures of Osama bin Laden through different points of his life. And he was going through it and punching each one of them and going, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, while his family were all laughing. And this kid was like 7 years old. And then his mum picks up the paper and holds it up for him to punch through the paper. And that experience stuck with me.
Sam told his writing partner, Terrell Jones, about that image. A little boy laughing at and punching a dead man, even if it was Osama bin Laden. And they began to wonder if it was even possible for most Westerners to consider bin Laden as a 3D actual human being.
What if we could do that for like the average white Western audience that could have that experience of going, I felt empathy with bin Laden. Wouldn't that be like the ultimate act of empathy? The ultimate act of standing in someone else's shoes? What if we could do that?
So together they created a theater piece called Bin Laden, the One-Man Show, to see if they could get an audience to see bin Laden with fresh eyes. To see him as some in the world actually do, opened his message to the argument that he was building. The show's big opening was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2013. And while I appreciate the ambition, you could not pay me enough to be the one on stage trying to get people to side with Osama bin Laden, even for an hour.
We've also committed to a season of doing this now.
Sam did the honors of playing bin Laden.
So if we have misjudged this, we could legitimately be in trouble physically, be in trouble emotionally. Like, how do we pack this back up?
Yeah, it was like, is someone going to hit me on stage? You know, we talked about that. Like, are you going to come off stage and someone's going to just like punch you?
Sam was so nervous the first time he performed it, he actually blacked out when it was over. Again, I believe in empathy too, but like when somebody is responsible for something so horrible, boy, you're really asking a lot from people.
You are, but I think it's for every person killed in the 9/11, September 11th attacks, 400 have been killed in the Middle East since then. What a completely different narrative it is if you're just born somewhere else. And we don't understand why they believe what they believe and why on earth they would ever do what they do.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Osama bin Mohammed bin Wad bin Abu bin Laden al-Qahtani, and I'm going to show you how to change the world.
This is a recording of the performance.
My friends call me Abu Abdullah. Abu for short. Like Aladdin's monkey friend. So why don't you call me Abu?
Black Box Theater, just Sam on stage as Bin Laden, but no keffiyeh, no turban. So more familiar looking to a white Western audience. And he's telling Bin Laden's story as his own.
Same shadowy figure, the United States of America. They give arms to the corrupt Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. They funded Saddam Hussein's war with Iran and then fought him to protect their oil in Kuwait. Every single intervention has been designed without consideration for our people, to keep our leaders in their blood-soaked pockets. And why?
And then they fold in music, but Western music, the scores from the big screen epics.
Lawrence of Arabia, Braveheart, Gladiator, Magnificent Seven.
It's time for Muslims to restore honor to jihad. And so they came. My people rose up.
And it feels inspiring. There's a moment in the play, right? You're like, how do you do it? You stand up. You don't back down. You become an idea. You become a legend.
I do not need this or any of this. Regardless if Osama is killed or survives, the awakening has started. The world is changing, and people are trying to build a better one for their children. And how do you do it? You stand up. And you don't back down. You become an idea. You become legend. Do this, and you can become a Jesus. You can become a Robin Hood. You can become a Mahatma Gandhi. So specifically, you become an idea, you become legend. That's just Batman. That's just the Batman idea that Christopher Nolan puts in the first Batman Begins.
Wait, but that's actually the words from Batman?
Yeah. You have to become an idea. You have to become a legend, Mr. Wayne.
Fuck. That's hilarious.
But like could Batman be any more of a Bin Laden trope? Like, he sees evil. He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire playboy that doesn't have to earn his own living. He then invests loads in the technology to fight this evil, and then decimates loads of things by doing it.
Think about it. Bin Laden hung out in caves. We didn't know for sure how tall he was until we killed him. He's 6'4". We don't even know if he spoke English. He's an idea. He's a legend.
So I don't have to believe it's Bin Laden saying that to believe the truth of it. The truth is that if you can make yourself an idea or a legend, you can change the world. You can do those things.
Our imagination failed us before 9/11 in predicting the attacks. And so afterwards, we put it into overdrive. We scared ourselves silly, yes, but there haven't been attacks of that magnitude since. And it's possible, maybe even likely, that is because we were able to piece together the scenarios and stop them. But in understanding why Bin Laden would strike in the first place, why so many in the world would support it, and why he would be hell-bent on doing it again, our imagination failed us once more.
Americans are asking, why do they hate us?
In all our searching the horizon for the why of it all, we always just keep coming back to the same answer it's always been.
They hate our freedoms.
Freedom. They hate us because we're so awesome. Rarely any talk of how the U.S. funded the Mujahideen in the 1980s and helped build up Bin Laden. of how much we meddled in the Middle East. And it was our complete inability to imagine, just for a moment, that maybe Osama bin Laden wasn't the Joker after all. That maybe he was Batman. And maybe we're the bad guys. Or at least more than just the innocent victims of a comic book villain. It's asking a lot. And honestly, I'm not sure any nation has the strength of character to pull off that sort of radical introspection. But trying to understand why millions believed in him, why in some countries there's graffiti that portrays him as the white knight and not us, why after 9/11 the baby name Osama soared in popularity, at least it might have informed our response to what happened on September 11th, and how we behaved in the world on September 12th. Next time on 9/12, extremism.
This is just what you do, right? The U.S. military, it's glorious. Everybody who serves it is great.
Two stories from the extremes of post-9/11 America.
So you had to choose a side, but I couldn't choose our side because I felt like my society sucked.
We don't question a lot. We all just carry out our role. We're all a little cog in this machine, right?
I mean, it was really easy to say, you know what? Fuck this. I'm with the terrorists.
And what happened when you started on that ship?
It was just a fuck show all the time.
So I'm like trembling, like, oh my God, they're taking you to fucking Guantanamo, bro. Nice work, asshole. You really fucked up this time.